program are those of the speakers and the host and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Monday episode of Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you as always by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig alongside Mr. Ty Bartell. And Ty, what a wonderful weekend. Welcome into Monday. We missed it last Monday, and we're back here on a Monday. Great weekend of basketball, like always.
Yeah, no doubt. A lot of nice matchups over the weekend. And like I've been saying, is these teams are playing at mid-season form now, and it's really fun to watch.
Let's rewind our brain back to Friday and recap the weekend like we do every Monday. You know, like I said, it was a big weekend, a lot of big scores coming in. Ty, you had a couple of big games that we'll talk about that you can talk about more educatingly, I guess I should say. But we'll start with just the first final that came into the night. It was Canfield coming over Cheney, 66-58. They do get revenge for their football team a little bit. We talked about that on Friday. They wanted to kind of, you know, there's a little bit of extra ice in the vein when Cheney comes to town. And actually, they went to Cheney and got the win.
Yeah, and that's a big win on the road for Canfield, too. And I think it really starts establishing themselves as serious contenders, not only for their conference. Now, I know it wasn't a conference game, but for their conference as well as a little bit further beyond that. This is a good Canfield Cardinals squad. And, I mean, they've been getting a couple wins. They've been competing against some pretty big names, but they've been, I think, really needing that signature win for everyone to open their eyes to. And I think this is one of those signature wins that they got.
Well, the two teams that made deep football runs, I mean, the two teams that won state championships, I should say, South Range and Canfield, both started the season off a little shaky, but now you start to see those football players hit their stride a little bit, and now maybe the real what those teams are both capable of is really starting to shine through.
Especially in this boys side for the AAC. I mean, you need as many wins as you can get, but what I've also seen on the boys side of the AAC is like 1 through 5, all 5 teams inside that conference have been scheduling up in the non-conference, and it's ridiculous with it. I mean, for Canfield too, 12-3 on the season too, and a lot of those games that they've been winning, they've been dominating in too. And I mean, so it's been impressive to watch this Cardinals team, 12-win team up until this point, and a big win over Cheney.
Once again, final score there, 66-58. We go to the next score. Springfield was all over Sebring, 66-36, the final score there. Springfield, one of those teams also, I saw them early on in the season, a little inconsistent, but now they're starting to hit a stride. They're finding consistencies. I had their game at Crestview where they built a huge first half lead, couldn't finish the game in the second half. Crestview came back and beat them by, I think, 2 or 3. So now you start to see Springfield find that consistency a little bit, and that's a dangerous team, like it always is in every sport.
For them being 7-6 on the season, 6-2 in the conference too, and they've done a lot of work inside that conference. They're the only team really right now that has any sort of chance of catching Lowville, but I think they only have one matchup with the Rockets, so they really need Lowville to trip up somewhere else. But still, you want to look ahead tournament time-wise. I believe D4 this year for boys basketball. So you never really know in D4 with a team like Springfield has too. A little bit of height too, but a lot of scoring prowess. And if they can find their stride, man, they can make a deep run in that D4 tournament.
All right, Ty, we've come across the game you were at on Friday night. It was Ursuline that protected their home court against Fitch. 67-50. Talk about it. Talk about what you saw of the Irish and how they were able to pull off this really dominating win. 17 points, the final score, the final point margin, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, Fitch initially jumped off to the early lead, and after getting that early lead too, Ysn responded really well, changing up some things defensively. And really, when I saw too, and Coach Gunther would attest to this, I talked with him a little bit after the game, is that Terrence Pankey, even though he wasn't one of the highest scorers, I think he was actually one of the lower scorers on the night. What he does on the basketball floor between the 32 minutes that is allotted to him, whatever minutes he gets, he makes the absolute most of that. And I mean, I'm talking offensively, I'm talking defensively, like seeing this kid in person now, every movement he has means something on the floor, and he can clear so much space with a jump stop. It's ridiculous. And he goes so quick off of that jump stop. He really is that kind of ignition to that Ysn fire, that big green machine too. Well, he's the motor to that machine, right? He's the one that gets all those gears running, and he gets that machine going. And what I saw too, you want to talk about Jaden Payne, a big man. He brings the pain on the inside too, a junior, and he was really establishing himself well against those twins. And I mean, although the twins are freshmen, they can bruise, man. And I know you've seen those, the twins, Allen and Alex Hill at Fitch, man. They could bruise a little bit. And he was bruising with the both of them, and Cam Jarrell's off the bench. It didn't matter for Payne too. And then you look at Gino Lucente, you look at Vincent Flotto. Those two guys started becoming the Splash Brothers at the wing. And one thing I said, and I talked with Coach Gunther about it and just how he coaches the hustle and heart of this team after the game. They were winning those 50-50 balls. I was like, it was more like 80-20 balls at the end of the night. You were out hustling Fitch to almost everything. And I mean, that was the thing. Players were just out hustling, getting those balls, getting those key turnovers, and those 50-50 balls became 80-20 in Ysn's favor. And they swung the ships heavily, the sails heavily in that ship's favor at the end of the game. And Ysn ended up running away with it towards the fourth.
You know, to your point real quick on Pankey, I think he proved on Friday that even if he's not a top scorer, how much he impacts the game just by being on the floor.
How much
because defenses have to respect what he's doing. To me, and sometimes they slow him down, sometimes they even stop him, but someone else is going to be not getting as much attention as they should. And that Ysn team is very well-rounded. So if you don't give Lucente or Flauto enough attention, they're going to turn into the Splash Brothers, as you said. Terrence Pankey just commands so much respect that even if a defense, pays attention to him and slows him down, you got to put so much on it that you're losing the battle with other people on the floor.
Deshaun Will too, only a sophomore. We got to see him last year with Camel in his freshman year. Now he runs as that kind of that secondary point guard option in that Ysn starting five. And what he does is take a tremendous amount of pressure off of Pankey when he needs to. So when you need to put Pankey as the off guard, you have the ability to do that too. And Terrence is one of those guys that can play both guard positions very well. He could play forward very well as well. So with Ysn being able to win like they did without Terrence being the top scorer or even close to it, I think it just goes to show how dangerous this Ysn team's going to be and just why they're number one ranked in our RPI-based power rankings.
And that's it. It's RPI based. So I mean, if you disagree with it, it's analytics. There's no
It's based off of literally the schedule and the team schedule and the opponent's schedule and your opponent's schedule, and all that is factored into the RPI-based rankings. And that was actually a 1 versus 5 matchup. And we got to see there's a little bit of a gap between 1 and 5 in that one, and just how good the Irish are this season.
In fact, RPI is a formula. I mean, college uses it just like high school is starting to use it in basketball. It doesn't change. Like, it's not like college is using a completely different formula. RPI is a very specific formula. The only thing that makes it happy and makes us happy for high school is someone is crazy enough to sit down and have the resources to do it. Martin RPI is putting it out there, but it's always been hard to do that in high school because you have to keep track of everyone in the state. A lot easier to do that in the NCAA when everyone has to report their scores, and you have teams of people whose job it is solely to calculate RPI. High school, it's never been extremely easy to do it, but we're starting to see it happen more and more.
And it's fun that we are too. I mean, I feel like there's going to be a little bit of pushback initially, and there's going to be people that are arguing on it. But I mean, if it's science based and there's a formula to calculate it too. I mean, you kind of you look at that and you say, all right, that works.
Yep. The next final score, Orange was able to fight hard but lose against Geneva, 62-54. The final score there for the Lions, a conference matchup with Geneva. On the boys' side, again, Beaver Local looked super impressive over Edison, 76-35. They get the dub over the Wildcats. It was domination from the start for the Beavers on Friday. Crestview got the win over Liberty, 52-39. Crestview, very talented team. They have two big dogs already under their belt this year on the boys basketball scene in Kirkland Miller and John Best. Then we look at a close game happening in Mooney. They come out with the win, 43-39. Slow first half, but Mooney put it together. And this is one of the talking points I wanted to bring into today, because you look at Mooney's record overall, and and it's like, okay, they're not doing great this year. It's up and down. But how quickly we forget last year kind of went the same way for Mooney. They didn't have an awesome regular season. They were kind of riding that roller coaster. But what happened in the tournament, Ty? I mean, they turned on a switch and they played a lot smaller teams than they played in their schedule. And all of a sudden, Mooney was lighting fire, and no one could really stop him. So I wouldn't really worry too much if I was a Mooney basketball fan about the up and downs of the regular seasons that we're seeing so far.
They're also dealing with some challenges other teams haven't been dealing with. They had an illness go through the team that kind of stopped some games in the middle of the season and kind of derailed the momentum they were trying to generate. And then they had to pick it all back up again because it happened right around the Christmas break. So there was a bit of a layoff between games. So I think Mooney's just getting back to that rhythm and just getting back to the motions of playing basketball on a regular kind of schedule too, and just getting themselves ready for a tournament. Steel Valley Conference is still, I guess, up in the air because I think one of those games that did get postponed was against Ursuline, so you could still win a conference championship and go further. And if I know anything about Coach Palermo, with the way last season ended and the names he brought back, he wants a similar deep run. And hopefully, potentially, for the Cardinals, 2 regionals once again.
Nick Pregabon had a big game for Mooney, 15 points. He led the team. I think 11 of those came in the second half. As like I said, Mooney had a really big second half push to beat the Tigers, 43-39. We saw Louisville's offense. They did it again. I mean, 91 points in a 91-64 win over Grand River Academy. A big win there for Louisville, and shocker, their offense is really, really good.
They've earned their spots offensively over the years, and I mean, a lot of these guys, multiple year starters, and I mentioned his name on Friday. If you want to talk early MVP candidates, Will Aljancic, I think, has to be up there for one of those names too. Him, Terrence Pankey from Ursuline, another good one, but there's some really good names up there in Louisville, and he's one of the big ones too. He's an elite level scorer, but they've created some other very great secondary options up there in Leopard country over the course of last season. Not just guys that are somewhat reliable, guys that could go out and get you 20 now too. So the Leopards look just as strong. They're doing what Coach Siegfried wants to continue doing up there, is build that program to a state championship level caliber team. And that looks like they're continuing to take those steps.
Things just got very interesting in the Indy 8 tie because Struthers, coming off of their loss on Tuesday to South Range, went and beat the top seed Girard in the Indy 8, 56-54 on Friday, shaking things up. Now Jefferson, if they didn't get beat by Hubbard on Tuesday, they'd be tied for first, but because of that little buffer there, Girard's still one game back, but now Jefferson is right back where they were, where they can tie up the Indy 8 in their second matchup with Girard later on in the season.
This Indy 8's getting really interesting, and Struthers is just one of those teams that can do that. I mean, I know not playing up to their standard that they've had years before, but still 8-6, 5-4. It's still a winning basketball team. And that's one thing Coach Warnicki is able to produce over there year in and year out, is winning basketball teams. It's a great culture. It's a great setting to play basketball as well. And Struthers shows once again, whether it's their season at being at the tops of the conference or not, you got to play them like they are, because they are one of those teams that can surprise you any given night. They're always a tough draw. And that win, you're right, and it sets Jefferson up with a very interesting situation. But team we're forgetting to mention too, that's kind of rolling around, and you got to remember, with 14 games, still 5 conference games left for Girard, there's a Raiders team that's only 2 losses back right now, 5-3, that are playing with a ton of momentum right now despite their last loss.
Yeah, and that loss wasn't a conference loss. So they're still, on this run in the NE8. They're trying to get some momentum. They beat this Struthers team that beat Girard. And they have a big week ahead because they play they play Girard tomorrow and away, and then they play Jefferson on Friday. So they're playing the top two teams this week, Tuesday, Friday. It's going to go a long way into seeing how the Raiders can compete in the NE8. And Jefferson's going to be watching on Tuesday, and then Girard's going to be watching on Friday, and they're probably both going to be rooting for the Raiders.
Take that in everybody's point of view and perspective. But if you look at it from the Raiders specifically, you win these next two games, you're one back in the conference then,
right?
All of a sudden. And yeah, you might need Girard to slip up because I believe that is going to be their second matchup with the Indians this season.
That would be Girard would be what 2 losses. South Range would still be 3, and then if they beat Jefferson on Friday, they'd be tied with Jefferson for second with 3 losses each.
It's fun because it's a team that it feels like neither conference opponent would want to cross right now. It's a team playing with a lot of momentum, and they're dangerous. Like I said, despite their last loss to Salem, South Range still one of those teams that they're playing very, very good at this point of the season too.
Well, what South Range would have to do is they'd have to win both these games and then hope that Jefferson beats Girard in their next matchup, and then there would be this 3-way log.
3-way tie for it. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
In both sides of the conference, girls too, it's not out of the realm because you still got Poland right there with 1 loss. Girard has 2, and Struthers has 1. So they're right there. They have to play each other all again.
Essentially, that need to fall for that to happen. 3 games that need to make sure that they fall.
So
girls, that to happen. 2 South Range Raiders.
Both NE8 sides, girls and boys, very interesting as we go forward into the last stretch of the season.
Yeah, the girls might be even more so than the boys, but the boys getting a lot more interesting with that Struthers victory, no doubt.
Another close one. Jefferson gets the win over Poland 55-51, and man, they needed that. They stubbed their toe against Hubbard on Tuesday, and they probably kicking themselves a little bit after Girard lost, because if they didn't, they would have been tied for the lead right now, and they would have been fighting for an outright championship. But they got right back on that horse, and they went down. They beat Poland 55-51, an impressive win for the Falcons to bounce back after a tough loss.
Yeah, and I mean Jefferson did what they needed to do. They stayed or kept pace now and got closer to Girard after that loss and avoided losing themselves to really put the clamps on them then to try to get themselves back into the conference. Now you can get back to controlling your own destiny. Right. I mean, that's the beautiful gift with this Jefferson. You keep winning, you keep momentum until that Girard game. You control your own destiny in this conference.
So many close games in the NE8 this year, too. Like 55-51, that's Jefferson Poland. We saw Struthers and South Range go down to the buzzer beater. We saw Struthers and Girard 56-54. Girard and Jefferson played. Girard only won by 3 points. This NE8 is just tight, contested. And to think that Girard or Jefferson or anyone that's vying for that top spot can't fall to a Niles or a Poland somewhere down the road as well. Don't second guess that either. I mean, that's very possible. Or even Hubbard. Hubbard's proven they can beat Jefferson. So if they can beat Jefferson, you got to think, well, they can pull off an upset against Girard too. So don't think for a second that this NE8 is just coming down to the matchups between South Range, Jefferson, and Girard.
Well, yeah, and I mean, what we saw, Struthers took a bit of a step back this year after two in a row, I believe, conference championships in the 2 in a row for the Wildcats. They took a bit of a step back. Poland did as well. You remember Poland had that big bounce back in the second half of the season last year. They're kind of teetering along with the 5-10 record, but taking their place. Girard stepped up big time, and they saw this as their window to try to get the top spot. So did Jefferson, even though Jefferson was good and near the tops last year, but also Niles. Niles is a team, too, that was kind of right around the middle of the pack last year, but they're doing the same thing, but they're doing it at a better clip, too, and they're doing it more efficiently. And, I mean, you look at what they're doing, 9-6 overall, 4-5 in the NEA, but they're being more competitive, too. And, you know, with the amount of games left, I believe there's, 5 games left for them, too, if they played, I think, a total of, what is that? They played 14 games in the NE8. Yeah, they played 9, so 5 games left for Niles. Any one of those teams that's on Niles' schedule, too, they've proven that they can be competitive and they can beat most of them.
Jackson Milton closed the gap against Lowville as we move on with more scores. They held Lowville to about 30 less points in the last meeting, but they still couldn't muster up enough to beat the Rockets. 55-42, the final score. They're much closer, but still not close enough for the Blue Jays. We keep going as East Liverpool continues to win in the Buckeye Central as they beat Indian Creek 60-42. Buckeye 8, excuse me. We see South Range get a win over that Niles team 58-45. A 21-point fourth quarter did it for the Raiders as they kept pushing back against Niles, who kept trying to get into their lead. South Range kept them at bay the whole night. Luke Rowan hit 3 threes in the fourth quarter, and that was big. He won player of the game. Another close game as we continue. 40-37, West Branch beats Marlington. A big win for the Warriors in the EBC. Another team hitting their stride at the right time after a little bit of a slow start on the boys' side. Joey Jackson is starting to put together a really good season. If you haven't had the chance to watch him play, make sure to get down to West Branch and see what they're doing. Badger on Friday, 83-21, and it was also Brad Hamilton got 1,000 career points, so congratulations to him. He had 36 on the night.
Wow. I mean, that's one of those big scoring moments, no doubt. And I mean, we got to see him, Mr. 1000 too. Great call, Matt, too.
And
Great
I mean,
call.
I don't know how much he knew. I don't know, because I think he got it pretty late in the game, if I remember that highlight. And so I think he probably came in not expecting to get it tonight. Like, no one comes in expecting to drop 36,
Just
But
blow
hey,
up.
You blow up and you get 1,000. There you go, Mr. Hamilton. Congratulations to you. Hubbard got the win over Lakeview in the NE8, 55-39. That Hubbard team fresh off their upset over Jefferson the game before. Western Reserve over Waterloo, 50-43. That's an impressive win for the Blue Devils because you've seen that Waterloo team a lot. They're a hard team to put away.
5-3 in the conference, 2 losses, 2 Western Reserve, 1 to Lowville. So whatever Western Reserve's doing against the Vikings, they're doing it right because they beat them out in Atwater earlier in the season.
54-42, Valley Christian gets the win over East Palestine. And then 59-58, Brookfield with a nail biter against Camel, but they do pull out the win. McDonald gets the win over Middle Ridge, 57-47. LeBray wins over Garfield, 63-46. We have Warren JFK get the win over Southeast in that PTC, 66-42. Akron Hoban on Friday, the boys fell to Cincinnati Taft, 51-44. We have United get the win over Latonia, 39-22. And those are your final scores for Friday. Take a breath. Ty, before we go into Saturday, real quick, biggest takeaway from Friday, what was it?
That the Ursuline Irish are the real deal, and someone better start keeping an eye on them if you haven't yet. They are rightfully on that top of that power ranking, no doubt.
All right, we barrel right into Saturday. A little bit of girls, a little bit of boys, a little bit of both. Springfield girls got the win over South Range, 47-33 to kick off the day in the afternoon. A big day for JC Mullen as she scored 23 of Springfield's 47 points. Also 47 points for Newton Falls as they beat Heartland Christian 47-23. We saw later on in the day, Boardman was able to hold off Howland 38-36, a big win for the Spartans as they're trying to keep pace with Canfield in the AAC. Big one in Edgewood as Perry came into town, a battle back and forth between 2 really good players in Casey Kanicki, and then on Perry's side, Grace McCoon. I was very impressed. They went back and forth, first place on the line in the CVC Lake Division, but Perry was able to get the win 59-52. But congratulations to Edgewood senior Casey Kanicki, who became the program's leading scorer. She now has over 1,224 points in her career. So now she is Edgewood's top scorer in program history. So congratulations to her. She had 21 against Perry. We move on to Warren JFK boys getting their second win in 2 days. They won 61-50 over Canton Central Catholic. We have what a game in Cleveland, by the way. Heartland Christian gets the buzzer beater over Badger. Drew Galt puts it in with ice in his veins, and they win 51-50 in Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse.
What a venue to do it too. And I mean, you want to talk about some for the senior scrapbook too. That'll be a memory there forever too in your high school career, no doubt.
47-40, East beats Warren Harding. On the girls' side as well, Ursuline was able to beat Girard 57-47. They were down by 10 at halftime, so a big second half for Ursuline, getting through some adversity and beating Girard. Elena Smith and Trinity Lamb were both in double figures, so that tells you that Ursuline really did their domination inside the paint. Badger was also playing on the girls' side in Cleveland. They won 48-14 over Heartland Christian. 11 wins in a row for Badger, going for 12 tonight. 69-46, Newton Falls beat Champion on Saturday on the boys' side. They're still for real in the MVAC. Like, they came out of nowhere. They're under the radar. Maybe the most under the radar team coming into this season. I don't think a lot of people thought Newton Falls would be leading the MVAC.
I mean, you might not have been thinking it, but I mean, if you know anything about Coach Sembach over there, dude is a legend for a reason. One of the best minds on the boys' side of basketball. And I mean, so many coaches today that are coaching right now in our high schools have taken either lessons, coached alongside, or have stated that Roy Sembach has had a huge influence on their lives. So seeds of Sembach everywhere too, as far as his basketball knowledge is concerned. And for Newton Falls, they're doing and they're doing it without their gym too. Like, can we talk about like the challenge that is not to actually play home games in your home gym, but still bring that energy, still have the fans bring the energy for you too. And Newton Falls playing on top of the world, doing what they do in the basketball season is dominating once again.
I don't go up there too often. I don't know the geography of how far Lordstown is from Newton Falls. I'm guessing it's not too far. I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't pick a high school that's far away. But it's just like it's an extra, even if it's an extra 10 minutes, it's impressive that the students all show up still and the community shows up to really.
It's just an odd feel though, not playing. Right. You know, you're wearing your team's colors, but you're playing in the Red Devils gym. You know, like it has that weird, strange feel not playing at your actual home too, right, where teammates and students before you did. But yeah, Newton Falls locked into a first place battle with LeBray, both 7-1 in that conference. So it's gonna be wild finish too. But Newton Falls looking like they're back on top. And that's a crosstown rival, too. Leavittsburg not too far from Newton Falls. So that's a crosstown rival, tops for the MVAC Gray.
Sebring bounced back from their tough loss to Springfield on the boys' side as they won 47-43 over East Canton. We saw Smithville beat Fitch 40-36 in their second game in 2 days. Salem beat South Range in overtime 61-56, the final score in that one.
Yeah, and I mean that was a great win for Salem too. To get it in but still good game for the Raiders too, and this can also prove to be even more dangerous as South Range now has found some chinks in their armor that they could look to shore up before the next few games.
And this is what I watched this game. I caught the end of regulation. You know, I was able to catch the end of regulation after I got home from Edgewood. One of the things I saw, and it's crazy because almost every time if you're tied and you're on defense with 30 to 20 seconds left, in that range, you're saying play good defense, don't foul, don't get too aggressive. If they want to take the last shot, you live with it. You make sure it's a low percentage shot, and you take your chances and you go into overtime. You don't want to take that extra risk to make a defensive mistake and then they get an easy bucket and they win the game on that. So a lot of coaches, but I think in that particular situation, if I was a coach, I am nowhere near the coach that TJ Irons is, so don't take this as me questioning his choice. I'm just trying to talk it out in my mind. Salem had all the momentum at that point in the game because they were coming back. They had all the momentum going their way. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable going to overtime. I might get a little bit more aggressive on defense to try to get a turnover, to try to steal a bucket at the end of regulation so I don't have to go into overtime with a team that has every ounce of momentum in the gym right now. I feel like South Range got the defensive stop. They pushed overtime. They did their job on defense, but they just could not regather momentum in overtime.
It's tough to do.
It's tough.
It's tough to do once you lose momentum to get it right back, no doubt. And we've seen a few coaches, I have at least too, especially this season, kind of roll the dice too. I think there's a couple games I can think of off the top of my head where they just decided to, instead of letting them hold for the last shot, if there's 20 seconds left,
Right.
Let's foul. Even in a tie game, let's put them at the line for a 1-and-1. Take our chances. I'd rather have the last shot in hand and see what happens too, because the chances of them missing one of those in that 1-and-1, or especially that first one, let's take our chances with that too. And I mean, it depends on your field too. And I mean, it like Coach Blanche will say too. And I saw the one thing we posted too. He always says it's a guessing game, right? Sometimes you're gonna guess right, sometimes you're gonna guess wrong on it from a coaching perspective. But yeah, we've seen some coaches roll the dice in the fourth quarter. Some that take their confidence to their defense, which is one of those nights. Went Salem's way. They got the momentum. They kept the momentum, and they rode it to a win.
And South Range played the right defense. They played good defense in that into regulation shot. They stopped Salem. They got the defensive stop. So they did everything right as far as what they were told to do. Just spitballing, just trying to talk it out. Not second guessing. TJ Irons would never do that. He's a way more experienced basketball coach than I am. I have one season as an 8th grade girls coach. That's it. So not sitting here trying to second guess him. I'm just trying to talk it out in my mind of what I saw. And it is like you said, it's just one of those games that when Salem's winning overtime, it doesn't hurt South Range at all because it's a non-conference game and they can get right back to their goal in mind tomorrow and Friday. And for Salem, what a big boost, because they're sitting there. They got the win in the EBC on Friday on the road, and they come back home and they get a big non-conference win over a very hot South Range team that had won 6 in a row before that. So a big boost for Salem. And I always say this, and I'm going to keep saying it as we go down the season. These non-conference games in January, if you handle them right on both sides, is a win-win. If South Range doesn't get down in the dumps from losing, it's a win for them because it exposed some stuff. It got, a little bit higher level basketball, D2. They can go back into the conference and do what they're supposed to do. Salem, it's a win because it's a huge confidence boost for the Quakers. So it's a win-win in these non-conference games in January, especially.
Beyond the players, too, the best coaches also are the ones that watch film. They learn from their wins, and they learn even more from their losses, too. So if Coach Irons is doing it, and I think he is, too, he's looking at this loss as well, and he's learning some things for it. Whether it's a different decision being made in the fourth quarter or not, maybe some different things being run throughout the course of the game, maybe a different set run in overtime. There's definitely some things that Coach Irons is looking back on this loss for how close it was, too, learning from it, too, and hopefully implementing it to the Raiders to get them better before the tournament.
They got Girard tomorrow. It'll be fun. 62-19. We had Valley Christian get their second win in 2 days. They beat Medina Christian. And Louisville also 2 wins in 2 days. They beat Akron Ellet 86-55. So 86-91, 2 days, almost 200 points.
It's like they're doing what the NBA used to do scoring wise. That used to be high scoring games in the NBA. Remember all the games being under 100 points? Like not
now, like you're scoring 130 in regulation.
Yeah. Well, that's just because the blowing up of the 3 ball too. But the fact that they're still doing the 90 points, 86 points in 32 minutes, and considering too, once you get it over 35, there's running clock as well. Like, I mean, it's impressive the offensive numbers that Louisville's been able to put up, because it's not just one quarter. They score consistently over 20 points a quarter. That's incredible.
Ty, we saw the Fitch girls give Canfield all they could handle, but Canfield comes out on top 57-51 to keep their first place spot in the ACC. Would have been big if Canfield wasn't able to win that game. But they did. They took the plays down the stretch and they made them. But man, Fitch made a great run at the top.
I'm really proud of this Falcons team just because over the course of the season, they've really gotten better too. And I mean, they've adjusted from the first matchup to the second. They looked a lot better against a really, really good Canfield Cardinals team, 15-1 on the season. And, Fitch is going to continue to get better. They have some young players mixed in with some seniors this year that are trying to learn the game. There's that learning curve when you're a freshman too. And I mean, they're going to get there. They're going to learn along the way. And, it was one of those games where Canfield, like you said, made the plays down the stretch, but that's what they've been doing all season, man. And that's why they are as good as they are, too. They kick it into another gear in that fourth quarter, and they make the smart basketball decisions. And that's usually what you see on the floor, no matter what. And they run about 8 to 9 deep last time I saw them, too, on Coach Reel's offense. And that's about 8 to 9 girls that just really know the sport of basketball, know where they should be, high IQ through all of them as far as where their assignments are, how they should play their position, and running plays efficiently. And I mean, when Canfield's running, they're running as a smooth operator, and it's very fun to watch.
RPI in the top 25 in Division II of the state, Canfield's number 4.
Yeah, and I mean, with good reason too. Cardinals looking for another deep stretch in a sports season too. We saw how fall ended for them on the football side, but
for seasons, Matt Reel was begging to be a Division II team. He's got it, and right now they're clicking. It's all about finishing, though, right? Can you make that run in the tournament and prove that it was just because you were a really small, actually the smallest Division I school, and you couldn't really muster enough in the D1 bracket? Can you go prove it now that you're D2? That's going to be the big question. But right now in the regular season, Canfield is loving the D2 world.
I'm sure, but you're about to enter into that D2 sports arena too for the tournament, and there's going to be teams like, I don't know, the Salem
Arlington.
Salem
already beat you, and
just going to be sitting there on the couch like, oh, so you finally arrived too.
Right. Like Salem beat Canfield, don't forget, and Marlington lost to them by 1.
Yeah.
So just because Canfield is ranked 4th in the state in RPI, like, don't forget about the Dukes and the Quakers. Quakers are in the top 15. I forget where Marlington is at. I didn't catch them because they weren't a YSN school, so I wasn't like eyeing for their spot. But I'm sure they're in the top 25 too.
I mean, there's plenty of teams that you're going to have to get through that have been in the D2 bracket world too and have made their runs in it too. So, I mean, it doesn't ever mean that there's less of a challenge. It's just a new set of challenges moving divisions, no doubt.
We'll have brackets for the girls' side next Monday. And I'm interested to see, like, because unless something crazy happens, actually it can't. I don't think none of the teams even play before the seedings are voted on. So everything stands right now. I would be shocked if Canfield, Marlington, and Salem weren't the top 3 teams. You can even them out, pick whatever order you want to go in, and good luck trying to filter that out because they've all beaten each other. But they're going to be the top 3. So it'll be interesting to see who picks where and who wants to go after who.
The interesting thing too about all those teams is just the amount of girls that can beat you. They run 5+ deep of girls that could score in double figures any given night and beat you. That's Salem, Marlington, and Canfield. And I mean Salem too. I really want to shout out Coach Hamilton. Now what? Phillips, if I'm not Hamilton Phillips. Hamilton Phillips, yeah. Shout out her for what she's done over there because they lost some big name seniors a year ago and just keep on keeping on with that train rolling. Being one of the coaches, doing a fantastic job over there in this.
I'm gonna come out and say it, Ty, and then this is crazy because the how much they went and how far they went last year. I think the Salem team's better.
They could be. They very well could be.
Because here's why: they play just as they don't play just as good defense. They play almost as good defense. They're not averaging 33 points per like they were last year, like record breaking, but they're still phenomenal on the defensive side. But this year they're scoring more. They have a healthy Abby Davidson that is just lighting the world on fire. Riley Hutton has found her stroke. Cammie Rome is starting to score more and not just be a defender and a rim protector. You got more offense on this Salem team. Last year, how many games did they win? 38-29 or 40-20. It's like, okay, they're winning with defense, but their offense is just not, getting in gear yet. This year, their offense is scoring. They have multiple players that can score on the offensive side, and they're still playing really, really good defense. I think the Salem team I think they're better than last year.
It's part of the process too. And I mean, with Coach Hamilton Phillips pounding in defense, being a defensive-minded team first and foremost, now you're seeing the product of girls not even thinking when they're playing defense. It's purely reaction. Now you can get back to focusing on offense, thinking a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball because you got a group of girls that are completely reactionary defensive players, and that's the best type of players to have, a squad full of those, because they make it hell to score if you're any other team on the other side. But now they're offensive, they're potent enough offensively in their own right to where they can go to multiple threats to beat you.
We'll see how the rest of their EBC goes. Salem still has a matchup with Marlington and West Branch, but that'll be a non-factor in the tournament seeding, but it will be a factor in the EBC.
Yeah, still measuring stick games before a huge tournament bracket gets released.
Absolutely, and it might play into the decisions on what bracket to go into when you play at Marlington. And don't forget about West Branch. I know we didn't talk about them when we talked about the top 3 seeds, but Sophie Gregory is healthy, and they're playing a lot better than they were in the first half of the season when she wasn't on the floor.
Just to speculate and not to spend a lot of time on this, you got to figure Canfield's going 1, Marlington's going 1, right? You got to figure they're going to just wait it out and try to
1 and
beat
2.
each other.
Yeah.
If they're 1 and 2, like we expect, like they're going to go into their own bracket. Then it becomes a choice. Do you want Marlington or do you want Canfield?
That's the thing, Tom. They don't have to. Marlington could say, do we want to play a ticked off Salem team and try to beat them a third time like we had to do against West Branch last year? Or do we want to go into a Canfield bracket and go after the 1 seed because we lost to them by 1 and we're not scared of Canfield?
I mean, it's an interesting.
Because they have every right to go into Canfield's bracket and then make the other one 3 through whatever. Because if that happens, no one else is going there. It's gonna be a free ride for Canfield and Marlington to get into the championship, and everyone else is gonna go to the other bracket, which will make that one bonkers for Salem. That's if they're a 3 seed.
Yeah.
If it goes the other way, if Marlington has their own bracket, then it leaves Salem in the position of which one do we go into, and everyone else will be watching that decision, deciding which one to go into. Because I'm guessing where Salem goes will be the easier bracket in that
The only
order.
reason I say Marlington goes against Canfield is just because I feel like their confidence has to be riding high with their recent matchups against Salem.
Mm-hmm.
They have to feel like, and I mean, how do you not after the last 3 matchups against the Quakers? How do you not feel?
Oh, I mean, it's been a while. Like I don't think the senior class right now for Salem has
Well,
beaten
yeah,
Marlington.
it might go back even further. I'm just talking about the last 3 prominent matchups with this defensive team last year going into this year as well. I mean, you got to feel like Marlington feels like they have the Quakers number, and you would rather have your own bracket and say, all right, anybody that wants to come challenge us, you could come challenge us. But it would be interesting to see Marlington, if they wanted to go with that have no fear approach and go right into Canfield's bracket and mess everything up. I just say that they go 1 and 2 just because I think that's the most likely option. But we've seen the wild world of sports and how it plays out before. And I wouldn't say it's completely unexpected or off the rails to see Marlington go into Canfield's bracket.
You know what? They play Wednesday. So Salem at Marlington is
that
going to be
that if they have the decision that doesn't factor in until, so that's going to be a game where Marlington wins again. You might just say, all right,
they'll be able to pick their brackets after knowing if they beat Salem a second time.
So if you sweep the Quakers again this season in the regular season, I feel like Marlington might take their chances with their own bracket then at that.
How much do you tempt fate?
I know it is tough because I mean you're doing the same thing you did last year then and challenging the Quakers, but then it comes down to, does Salem want to challenge Canfield or do they want to challenge Marlington, and who do they feel more comfortable attacking at that point? I love tournament time. I love decision time, and it'll be next Monday that we have brackets released, so that'll be fun.
That's going to be fun. We still have a couple of more scores to get to from Saturday real quick. Minerva was able to beat Lisbon 56-22. Boys side, Canfield beat Poland in the Battle of 224, 54-47. We saw Beaver Local get their second win in 2 days as they won 71-56 over Wellsville. Our own Mike McNuggies with a huge game for the Beavers over Wellsville. Way to go, Mike.
22 points, if I'm not mistaken, scored as well. So, I mean, big difference maker, big dog performance, potentially.
Well, the winners are being totaled as we speak from last week, which means the nominees aren't too far behind.
Yeah. We'll have to stay tuned too, and stay tuned for the new release of all the big dog nominees on the boys, girls, wrestling side of things, basketball. I mean, we got as much as we can get right now, right? 3 big dog winners every single week, and stay tuned to it. Boys and girls basketball and wrestling that'll be released on the site as well. But yeah, congratulations, McNuggies, for the big performance too, and helping lead your team to a victory.
I want to give a shout out to the fans real quick because this year they have been really good at sitting in big dog nominees. We've gotten a lot of fan requests. You know, last couple of years it was kind of like us saying, okay, who had a big game, or we're trying to figure it out. Maybe once in a while we'd have a fan comment and be like, hey, this kid needs to be on or whatever. But now, like every week, we're getting 3 or 4 fans a week send us in and say, hey, you know, this kid, here's his stats. He needs to be on.
And we love it because, you know, we try to have eyes everywhere, but we can't have eyes at every single corner of the gym too. And sometimes it comes down to how the players act on the bench too that give them deserving big dog nominations too.
And that's what I love. I see there's been several occasions where teammates have nominated their teammates, not themselves.
You love to
Their
see
teammates. Like,
You
if
love
you're doing
to see
that,
too.
props to
And
you,
I mean,
because it'd be easy to come on and say, I need a big dog nominee because I just scored 20 points. But
please
to
send
say,
in those nominations, because we do listen to them, we take them into consideration, and we look at all of them too. We value the opinion of all the local athletes and the local fans as well too. So never hesitate to send in your nominations.
we were speaking of West Branch. They got the win on Saturday over Mooney, 58-40. Big day for Sophie Gregory. Hoban got the win on the girls' side on Saturday at the Battle at the Hawk's Nest in Columbus at Bishop Hartley High School. They beat Notre Dame Academy from Kentucky 46-37. And I think those are that is your last final for Saturday. So we have gotten through the recaps of the weekend.
Through the 45-minute weekend recap,
But we took some time
to
talk about some stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, there's a lot of things to get through over the weekend, a lot of big games that are coming up too that are going to be on the docket this week. And conferences are going to start to be decided. We're in the final full week, of January. And we're going to be getting into February pretty soon. And February means the start of tournaments. And the start of tournaments leads right into March too. It's crazy. We're already over halfway through the basketball season, the long basketball season that starts all the way back in November, and we're coming up here in the end of January. So it's very exciting. All these teams playing at pristine form right now, mid-season form, and we're really starting to separate those legitimate state title contenders now from the rest of the pack, and it's really fun to see.
Crazy is, like I said, by next Monday we'll have the girls brackets, and then just a week later we'll have the boys brackets. So tournament time is literally right around the corner, and it's crazy to think about. It's just like we just started the season, right?
It feels
I
like
remember
longest sports season of the year too.
I remember interviewing coaches for like the preseason previews. What happened?
We're right here, man. It all flies by so quick too. Every single season, it feels like goes faster and faster here on the network.
Right. We're gonna gear down the final stretch. We'll go over the games that are gonna be on the network tonight, and have some fun, and maybe preview tomorrow's show as well. We're gonna take a quick break first, though, and be back with Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
As fine as the eye can see, the finest hardwoods from the finest trees. Made for your home and within your means, Baird Brothers will help fulfill your dreams. Let life and light come shining through in quiet morns. And heavy traffic, too. Find your easy-to-afford fine hardwood floors and doors and more at BairdBrothers.com.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig alongside Ty Bartell. Before we introduce the games on the network, Ty, I want to let everybody know the power rankings for this week are out. Girls and boys, they've both been released on our social media pages. You can head over and check those out, see where your team either moved or moved up or down in the week, and see where they land from this week to last week. The Hoban boys have made their first appearance as they are now number 3 in the power rankings. The 12-2 Hoban Knights on the boys' side lost a long win streak to Taft on Friday, 51-44, but they get right back to it tomorrow as they will play Walsh Jesuit tomorrow on trying to bounce back. That's an old school rivalry, by the way, Hoban versus Walsh.
That'll be a fun one, too, as Walsh is a solid team this year as well, and that's certainly going to be an exciting one, no doubt. And
That's
of course,
Fitch beating overtime earlier, right, Walsh?
Fitch threw their hat in that ring, too. I mean, Fitch, I saw, too, where they ranked, too, still a top 10 team, and they're one of those teams, too, where, I mean, we just have a lot of good teams. East Liverpool is another one of those teams, stayed just as good as they did despite losing 10 seniors. I think 10 or 11 seniors, if I'm not mistaken, a year ago. Like, how many teams lose their team and just bring back in another team to do the exact same level of dominance that they were a year ago? East Liverpool and Coach Conley is amazing.
And then on the girls' side, DJ Oakley and the Power Hour will have the full rankings up, and they'll go through everyone. But just some quick highlights. Canfield stays number 1. Poland jumps, I believe, from 4 to 3 as Springfield falls out of the top 5 and goes down to 6. I'm trying to remember all the last weeks. It's hard with 25. Hoban makes their debut as a YSN school at number 7 on the girls' side. They're 10-7. Louisville's right behind them at 8. Edgewood stays at 11 even after they lost to Perry. So, some teams stay right where they are. Some teams a little bit of movement. What didn't change at all is Canfield, Salem 1 and 2.
Yeah, and one thing to remember too, folks, with all these addition of teams too, you can always look at our ysnlive.com/advertise to find the best advertising package for you. You could sponsor schools, you could sponsor all of them too. You could get them all, and we have all the packages and how they're broken down on the site for you as well. So always be sure to tune into that if you are a company interested in getting or joining the advertising banner here on YSN.
So as I said, I'm sure DJ and the boys at the Power Hour will have that whole power rankings previewed and talked about at length on the Power Hour. So we'll leave that to them. Just some quick highlights. It's up on our social. You can go check it out. Here are the games that are going to be on the network tonight. 5:30 is when we start. Heartland Christian will be at Warren JFK. Dom O'Brien will be on the call there. Also at 5:30, Badger tries to win their 12th game in a row as they welcome in Maplewood. Then we go into the 7 o'clock starts. Crestview will be at Brookfield. Huge one. Clearing up that muck in the MVAC. There's 3 teams tied at the top spot right now. Crestview and Brookfield are 2 of them. Something's got to give, right? Something's got to give. Who's gonna make the big plays to put themselves in the top spot?
Answers are to be had, and we're gonna have to find out.
Larry Skagg going to travel to Brookfield to make that call. So Larry has you covered on that end. Jefferson will travel to Niles. Ian O'Brien on the call there, 7 o'clock tip. Lowville will be at Western Reserve. Richie Giuliano will have the call for you on that one. South Range at Poland. I'll be there. That's a big one, not for first place in the NE8, but obviously Poland knows that South Range is a team they can throw a monkey wrench in there. They can get a win. And if they do, they have Gerard and Struthers right on their heels. So they can't afford a little slip up against South Range tonight.
No doubt. You gotta make sure you take care of business. Can't overlook anyone.
Springfield tries to stay hot as they travel to Mineral Ridge. Noah Doty will have the call there in Rams country. Strongsville goes to Louisville. Bob Burrick will be on the call in Leopard country for that one. Struthers will go to Lakeview. Our Lakeview crew always has you covered there in the Doghouse. United at Southern. Round 2, kind of big in the EOAC. If Southern wants any kind of chance, they got to beat United tonight. They still have to have some more help, if I'm not mistaken, but they have to beat United tonight if they want any kind of mathematical chance to put their hat in the ring of the EOAC. So they'll host United, and United will have to take care of Ashley Schroeds, and Southern will have to take care of Grace Knight. It'll be a big one. I think it'll be a big one.
It'll be fun.
Columbiana on the EOAC as well. Hoppy will have the call for you there. Some other games that are happening. 7 p.m. Hubbard will go to Girard. Liberty will be at Newton Falls. At Lordstown at 6. East Palestine and Latonia will be a 6:15 start there. Garrettsville Garfield travels to champion, as Coach Gilbert has said plenty of times. That's a tough place to go play. You never know what will happen against a healthier champion team. LeBray will be at Campbell Memorial. Lisbon will be at Valley Christian, and then McDonald will be at Waterloo tonight as well. So those are your slate of games. Those are your finals to watch out for. Head over to ysnlive.com/live to check out our full schedule. And then while you're watching, you want to check out scores of other games, head over to ysnlive.com/scores, and you can check the live scoreboard. And then at the end of the night, if you want to see, hey, what does that mean for the standings? Where does my team land now? Head over to ysnlive.com/standings, and you can find all the standings of every conference that one of our teams are a part of in there as well. We had to make some minor adjustments over the weekend. We were informed that the CBC changed the rules on us this year. The Cuyahoga Valley Conference no longer counts crossover matchups for conference record. They switched it this year to just your side, like the MVAC. So a little bit of an updated CVC standings on the boys and girls side there. If you're an Edgewood fan, or I think Edgewood, Perry, Orange is on the other side of the CVC of them. So those standings have been updated as well.
We like to make sure we have the right information too, and I mean, got updated on it a little late, but we got it adjusted and reflected.
No, it's their fault. They shouldn't have switched up on it. What are they doing? Great. It's a great resource for everyone there to go into those standings pages and see where it's all standing. We use it all the time. We try to see where their teams stand, and we can more smartly and not have to guess. No longer guessing with, I think this team played already. I think these teams are 1-1.
Yeah.
Nope, it's right there. Completely updated. Our team does a great job of making sure those are correct. And then if there are little updates to be made, then they're right on top of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. So doing a great job too, and trying to just do the best to keep that public updated.
On tomorrow's show on Running Point, we're going to have 2 pre-recorded interviews to play for you. We're going to have a player profile with South Range's senior Emma Cunningham. Going to record it just after the show here today. And then we'll also have the first Hoban Coaches Corner with Pamela Davis, the head coach of the girls team. That will be played on tomorrow's show as well, as we welcome in more welcome in Hoban to the YSN family. So we'll have that for you tomorrow as well.
Should be a fun time. Excited to hear from Coach for the first time on the network.
Austin Town Fitch grad, Mr. Ty.
Yeah,
it'll make you like her even more.
Yeah, and so I mean, a lot of respect for her and what she's done over there with that Hoban program too, no doubt. And I mean, it's always been that program overall too, not only just girls basketball, football wise. I mean, it's one of those teams being representative of Fitch too for the network. I mean, it's one of those teams you always looked at with admiration too, and a lot of respect. And it's exciting to now say that the Knights are part of YSN too, and to have that kind of school and that kind of program be represented by the banner. It's a really cool time.
All right. Thanks again for tuning in today to Running Point. We'll be back tomorrow from 1 to 2. Power Hours got you on here from 3 to 4. And then we have a bunch of games on the slate tonight. Get over to ysnlive.com/live to check them out. This was